welcome to the regular meeting of the Economic Development Committee. I'm joined by my colleague, Monica Rodriguez. We are anticipating one more colleague soon, but we're going to get started. And so I'll call this meeting to order. I understand we have no multiple comment items and no general public items. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair.
All right, so we'll open and close that. Councilwoman Rodriguez, unless there's an objection, I'd like to move items 2, 3, 4, and 5 on consent.
Objection.
2, 3, 4, 5 on consent. Without objection, that will be the order. And we're joined at the right time by Councilman Joe Busquiano. Go, Joe.
Good afternoon.
Sure.
Ms. Buscaino, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mr. Busquiano, otherwise known as Joe. And Mr. President of the National League of Cities,
Yes, sir.
for those who keep track of those sorts of things.
Thanks for the shout out.
We're proud of him.
We'd like to-
But on with today's exciting activities. We have some sad news and some good news. Mostly good news. But Mr. Clerk, where are we?
We now still have two items on the agenda, item number 1 and item number 6.
Okay. Would you read item 1 for us, please?
Item number 1 is the Chief Legislative Analyst. They are actually bringing up a report right now relative to strategies for including food centers, community economic development initiatives in the existing and emerging economic development incentive programs and access to feasibility on piloting a good food zone in South Los Angeles.
Okay, well, we have several who wish to comment. Why don't you make your way to the table as I call your names, and we may need one more chair so we can at least have a couple of backups. But Ronell Hampton, Chloe Green, Anna Carr, Anna Guzman, Adele Bertha. Adeline Bertha, excuse me. Okay, you'll have a minute. State your piece. Identify yourself and let us have it.
Hello, Board Committee. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Ronell Hampton, and I am here representing the Los Angeles Food Policy Council and the Good Food Economy Work Group. The Good Food Zone policy is a step in the right direction to make sure that food is accessible, sustainable, affordable, and healthy for all. For too long, food access has been impacted by race-based practices like redlining. How our environments are built impacts how we experience our communities. How many schools, parks, and healthy food retailers impact our health, and it determines if we live in a food desert. This divestment was deliberate, strategic, and intentional. This divestment is what created the food deserts in our communities. This means that the solutions created to address food apartheid have to be just as deliberate, just as strategic, and just as intentional. Our hope is that with the passing and funding of the Good Food Zones initiative, we'll take a step towards addressing the systemic impacts of food insecurity.
Thank you.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Chloe Green, and I'm a Bill Emerson National Hunger Fellow from the Congressional Hunger Center. During my placement at the LA Food Policy Council, I have updated our food system dashboard, which is a comprehensive measurement tool comprised of both quantitative and qualitative data regarding the health, affordability, sustainability, and fairness of our food system. We have tracked over 250 indicators over the past several years, and the data clearly shows that South LA is the only neighborhood to have more liquor stores and convenience stores, which serve alcohol, cigarettes, and highly processed foods, than grocery stores with healthy and nutrient-dense foods options. While this number continues to increase, it is no coincidence that these underserved neighborhoods, which are primarily made up of people of color, also have the highest rates of obesity and diet-related chronic diseases such as type 2 diabetes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ana Guzman, and I am a resident of South LA, a mother of 5, a health educator, serving families in the Good Food Zone for over 4 years, as well as Family and Community Partnership Manager at FIS, a nonprofit organization in the proposed Good Food Zone that combines food, education, access, and support together to help families live sustainably healthy lives. I am a member of the Good Food Economy Working Group for LA Food Policy Council. I stand behind the Good Food Zone because it will generate a healthy economy through fair business practices, job creation, entrepreneurship training, and investment in local business owners, addressing decades-old disparities and disinvestment in community of colors. It will also create positive community health outcomes by increasing access to affordable, fresh food for local residents. Once approved, the policy will focus on economic revitalization and community health as the power to reshape our family's future, creating a foundation for real wellness for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next group of speakers, please. Also, Grace Song, Samantha Solomon, Valeria Velasquez, Lyric Kelkar. Let's grab a seat and be ready.
Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Analyst, Community Impact Director with the American Heart Association and member of the Good Food Economy Work Group. The Heart Association's mission is to create a world of longer, healthier lives, and food is a significant contributor to making this mission a reality. A nutritious diet is vital in the prevention and management of heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and obesity. Healthy food is fundamental a driver of positive health outcomes and longevity, yet access to healthy food and life expectancy remain highly inequitable among Angelenos. Residents in South LA have an average life expectancy nearly 10 years less than residents in West LA. Unsurprisingly, Black and brown communities also have less access to grocery stores, supermarkets, and healthy food businesses. Systemic and environmental improvements to the food landscape are needed in targeted areas to increase the availability of high-quality, nutritious foods for communities in need. We urge you to take this important step toward equity in food access and support the Good Food Zone policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Adeline Bertha. I'm a community organizer for United Coalition East, a prevention program of social model recovery systems. On behalf of our coalition membership and as a member of the Good Food Economy Work Group, we express strong support for the adoption of this council motion. A good food zone policy is needed for 2 reasons: to expand fresh food access in neighborhoods with limited food options and to increase economic opportunity for historically underserved communities. For years, we have advocated for limits on alcohol and marijuana access, increased community resources, local programming, local hiring, and increased healthy food options. 1 in 3 low-income residents in Los Angeles struggle to access healthy food in their neighborhood. Food access disparities impacts residents' health, life expectancy, academic performance, and job productivity. These disparities are most notable in Los Angeles communities of color. In South Los Angeles, Skid Row, and Boyle Heights, there are few grocery stores, high rates of diabetes, and life expectancy is 12 years less on average than that of West Los Angeles residents. I urge you to support this council motion as it is much needed, and we hope that you would. Thank you.
You good. You want to finish your sentence?
We hope that this will one day extend to our neighborhood in Skid Row.
All right. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Grace Song. I'm a policy analyst at Community Health Councils, an organization based in South LA, and a member of the Good Food Economy Working Group. We support the Good Food Zone policy for a number of reasons. The policy will greatly increase access to fresh, healthy food and tackle food insecurity that many of our communities in South LA still experience today. We know that nearly a third of households in South LA experience food insecurity every day, a much higher percentage than compared to other neighborhoods across the city. This means that families, often with children, need to make difficult decisions like paying the rent or putting food on their table. The Good Food Zone policy would not only address food insecurity in the short term, but promote positive long-term solutions. With more affordable and accessible food in our communities, families can save their dollars for other basic household needs, the prevalence of chronic illness due to poor diet would decrease, and children would miss fewer school days and have a higher likelihood of graduating. For these reasons and beyond, we ask for your support of the Good Food Zone policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Lyric Kelkar, Valeria Velasquez, Deja Thomas, Todd Cunningham.
Hello, my name is Samantha Salmon. I am here on behalf of the Good Food Economy Working Group of the LA Food Policy Council and the Local Initiative Support Corporation. Over the last 10 years, Los Angeles neighborhoods have undergone unprecedented change. Expanding public transit options and the increased interest in urban life have transformed neighborhoods that once had limited desirability into attractive places to live and work. This has meant an escalation of rents and resulting in the displacement of many residents and business owners in low-income communities across Los Angeles. Through this policy, we can provide needed support to small and culturally relevant businesses in low and middle-income communities. Almost 126,000 people are employed in the food preparation and serving related occupations in LA. Support of this policy will not only help the business owners succeed, grow, and provide healthy options to the community that need it most, but also have a cascading effect supporting the nearly 126,000 jobs.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Valeria Velasquez Dueñas, Senior Program Manager with CLA and founding member of Across Our Kitchen Tables. Through my work with CLA and Across Our Kitchen Tables, I strive to help build equitable food systems that offer increased food access for historically marginalized communities and advancement opportunities for food entrepreneurs, particularly women and entrepreneurs of color. I'm voicing my support for passing and funding of good food zones to ensure that our city shows where we have our priorities as they pertain to economic opportunity and fair food systems for all Angelenos. It's clear that more investment is needed in women and entrepreneurs of colors. The most startling statistic I've seen recently demonstrates the systemic lack of investment across the board in our country, with only about 2.1% of capital going directly to women entrepreneurs. And for Latinx and African American female entrepreneurs, the percentage is much lower. Our food economy is powered by many skilled and talented women and entrepreneurs of colors who face barriers to sustain business growth and who deserve equitable access to resources, business and tax incentives, and investment.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lyric Kelker, and I work for an organization called Inclusive Action for the City. I'm a member of the Good Food Economy Working Group, and I'm here to support the passing of the Good Food Policy Zone, or the Good Food Zone policy. I'd like to uplift the important role that this policy will play in providing opportunities for economic development and growth, especially for micro and small businesses that provide much needed, and because this provides much needed access to healthy food in Los Angeles. The Good Food Zone policy provides the possibility of a tiered incentive program that can help boost the distribution of healthy food and also provide needed technical assistance and capital to the micro businesses that often have compounded barriers to success. Further, this policy will also push forward a more equitable sidewalk vending program, proving that its intersectional approach is a model and example of how policy can meet a multitude of needs. The impact that this policy can have on small and micro businesses is immense and will not only support and prioritize existing residents and businesses, but also provide the means necessary for the social fabric of the neighborhoods to stay intact, while also expanding the economic growth of commercial areas. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our last group of speakers. Eileen Bertha, Deja Thomas, Todd Cunningham, and Vicki Vaughn are the names I have.
Hi, everyone. I'm Deja Thomas with the LA Food Policy Council, and I'm also a member of the Good Food Economy Working Group as well, and a graduate student researcher from UCLA supporting the group. I'm here today in support of the Good Food Zone policy. Through my research already, I found that this policy at full scale can have an enormous impact at uplifting small food businesses across the entirety of LA, specifically council districts in South LA, East LA, and the Pacoima area. Research also shows us that food businesses play a very important role in a sense of place and community in these communities that are rapidly facing displacement and change, and thus the Good Food Zone policy is a powerful tool in not only making sure that food businesses are supported economically and provide healthy, affordable, sustainable, and fair food for all Angelenos, but also contribute to a sense of preserving a sense of place in these rapidly changing communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Todd Cunningham. I'm from LA CAN and the LA Food Policy Council's Good Food Economy Working Group. Today we bring voices representing the experiences and learnings from the front lines of the fight for food justice in support of establishing a good food zone policy. A critical first step towards this success is recognizing that food is a human right, no matter your race, creed, or outlook. In support of this policy is a commitment to good food in three ways: access to education that includes nutrition information that would accompany fresh, healthy food, access to places that welcome participation through the burgeoning world and network of sustainable farms, markets, and merchants where good food is easily available, and access to employment-friendly experiences that include leadership development opportunities so that people can transfer those skills and experiences back to their community for long-term job creation. It is incumbent on all of us to continue learning and leading more and share the knowledge with others. We envision this pilot leading to a good food economy with high impact benefits. We ask for your support of the passage of the Good Food Policy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vicki Vaughn, and I'm a United Parents and Student Leader. United Parents and Students serve over 10,000 families in South and East Los Angeles and is part of the Good Food Economy Working Group. I personally live and organize in South Los Angeles. I urge you to support this motion because the quality of food in our local grocery stores is often unacceptable. A large amount of the produce is rotten, the dairy products are molding, many items are past the expiration date, and the stores are not clean. The meat department is a problem also, with foul smells and discolored products. Yet, we are expected to spend our hard-earned money in these stores. We deserve to shop for groceries in our community. We deserve for our shopping experience to be a good one. We deserve to receive the same high-quality food that we see in other higher-income neighborhoods. Many small businesses are making this a priority and transforming the shopping experiences for families like mine.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. Any others? All right, let me thank everyone who testified. Also want to thank the community-based organizations, advocates who have been supporting this issue, leading on this issue over the years. Special shout out to Claire and the Food Policy Council for their extraordinary work. We had the opportunity, in fact, to honor Claire this morning in council as she moves on to new responsibilities, but certainly consistent, those responsibilities consistent with making sure that our communities have the kind of food that will help them grow and survive. And so I'm just so pleased that we're bringing this discussion to the Economic Development Committee. Food and economic development. What a concept. What a concept. I certainly support those who feel that food is a human right, members, but it's also a tool for economic development, isn't it? And I think that's the message we've been getting from advocates, from members of the community, from those who have been giving thought to this. And so we're pleased to move this initiative forward. Let me ask the CLA to come forward and share with us the highlights of this the report and recommendation.
Good afternoon. Andy Galan with the
Afternoon.
Office of the Chief Legislative Analyst. Copies of the report are available with the clerk and in the back of the room. Before you is a report relative to the Good Food Zones policy, pursuant to a motion which was adopted by Council on January 16th, which directed the Chief Legislative Analyst with the assistance of the Economic and Workforce Development Department to report on strategies for including food-centered economic development initiatives in existing and emerging economic development incentive programs, and to assess the feasibility of piloting a Good Food Zones program in South Los Angeles. The Good Food Zones policy, which was created by the LA Food Policy Council with input from community residents and food equity advocates, seeks to increase access to healthy and affordable food and stimulate economic development through a focus on small business support and retention. The policy proposes the creation of a geographic economic development zone which would support existing food businesses. The policy proposes the hiring of a food business liaison who would be dedicated to assisting food businesses in accessing existing incentives and programs. Similar to the EWDD's business response unit, the food business liaison would act as a case manager and assist businesses in accessing existing programs. Businesses would be required to meet baseline requirements within the first year of participation in the program. These requirements would include dedicating 30% of the floor space to fresh produce, fresh meats, and dairy. Upon participation in the program for 3 years, a business would be required to meet additional gold level standard requirements, which would include increasing amount of floor space dedicated to fresh food, and to the percentage of the percentage of products be sourced from local, sustainable, fair trade, or organic sources. To accomplish the goals of the Good Food Zones policy, Good Food Zones should be located in areas that are consistent with the eligibility criteria as proposed by the Jedi Zone Establishment Policy, which is currently pending before the Economic Development Committee. The criteria to establish a Jedi Zone includes that the boundaries conform to at least one of the primary eligibility criteria, which include being within a opportunity zone, a promise zone, an EIFD, a CREA, or a focus area identified by the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. A secondary criteria, which includes low income and moderate income areas and areas of high unemployment, can also be used to evaluate eligibility. Because affordability is one of the most important factors in food accessibility, rather than food deserts or other indicators, consideration for the placement of good food zones should be based on economic conditions such as low income and unemployment in an area. By allowing the geography of good food zones to align with the eligibility standards for Jedi zones, the incentives provided can be further leveraged with federal incentive opportunities, as well as other emerging economic development programs. That way, available resources can be maximized. In consideration of the boundaries of the Good Food Zone, we recommend that food access indicators such as affordability, food quality, health, food options, and cultural inclusivity and transportation be considered. A Good Food Zones pilot in South LA, where incomes and unemployment figures are consistently lower than the rest of the city, could demonstrate the effects of the policy on both economic development and food access. Should a Good Food Zones pilot be implemented, we recommend 1 to 3 Good Food Zones with no more than 10 businesses, prioritization of existing retail, participation of at least one business with more than 5 employees. The pilot should be implemented from a period of 2 to 3 years. This would allow for the evaluation of the feasibility of the third-year gold standard, the feasibility of a 2-year time frame for reaching gold standard compliance, and the sustainability of complying with gold standard requirements. In order to test the sustainability of the gold standard requirements, at least 3 businesses that can meet those gold standard requirements prior to participating in the Good Food Zones program should be included. In order to implement the pilot program, EWDD has indicated that one exempt project coordinator or management assistant position would be necessary. This new position would be housed in the business response unit and would be solely responsible for providing services to businesses in the Good Food Zone program. The most feasible options for funding would be CDBG or the general fund. The consolidated plan and budget process are currently underway. Therefore, in order to include funding for the Good Food Zones program in the consolidated plan or the city budget, an appropriate request would have to be made through those respective processes. Alternatively, the pilot can be implemented using existing resources in EWDD's business response unit. EWDD has indicated that the program cannot be sustained for more than 1 fiscal year due to the likely increase in workload that the business response unit will see as a result of the implementation of additional Jedi zones. Furthermore, EWDD has indicated that a maximum of 10 businesses can be accommodated using existing resources. So our office has recommended that the City Council adopt the Good Food Zones policy as included as Attachment A of this report, and that the policy specify that the geographic boundaries of a Good Food Zone be determined and initiated by motion to be evaluated by the Economic and Workforce Development Department for compliance with the proposed Jedi Zone eligibility criteria. Also to approve the implementation of Good Food Zones, a Good Food Zones pilot in South Los Angeles with the parameters discussed in the report. To direct the Economic and Workforce Development Department with the assistance of the CAO to report on the feasibility of implementing the proposed Good Food Zones pilot program using existing resources in the Business Response Unit for the 2020 and 2021 fiscal year, to provide an estimate of the funding necessary for implementation of the pilot program for the full pilot term of 3 years, including the hiring of a food business liaison, and to identify a permanent funding source for the full program. 4, to instruct the food business liaison at the end of the pilot term to report on pilot success, service gaps, and metrics, including but not limited to those outlined in this report. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. A good report certainly lays the foundation, I think, for an important program. I'm pleased, obviously, that the proposal for the pilot in South LA, but I'm a little concerned. Did you say, did I hear correctly, that others can't come on and for 3 years after this pilot is completed? Or you're saying that without additional funding augmentation, additional pilot sites won't be available?
So our office is recommending for the pilot 1 to 3 zones. Currently, we are only recommending that we are only suggesting a pilot in South LA. However, if we wanted to add additional geographies, those could be added. The only limitation being that EWD has indicated that with the one requested position, they'd only be able to handle about 10 businesses. So in other words, we can have more than one zone, but
no more than 10 businesses.
Correct.
Okay. Well, as I said, I think it's an exciting opportunity for us to test this concept. Are there other communities that have been successful with good food zones that we are aware of?
In our research, we have not encountered programs that are similar to the Good Food Zones program. There are certainly other economic incentive programs that are based on geographic location. However, those are mainly fiscal incentives, and there hasn't been really, as far as our research has shown, a resource available to help with technical assistance and case management in other cities.
Okay. Well, members, you certainly should know that as a member of the Budget Committee, I'm going to watch this carefully and make sure that there's some resources for a robust pilot effort, I think, in selected areas. And I think we should all note the mayor has included this in his green, what are we calling it?
Green New Deal.
Yeah. You know what it is. And so I think there'll be some additional pressure on the mayor to make sure that we have the kind of funding and financing that's going to be supportive. Councilwoman?
Thank you. And my apologies for I'm going to ask several questions because the report came late, so we didn't get an ample opportunity to really reflect very deeply on it, although love the concept, love everything about this. In terms of just to kind of for clarification, in terms of the maps that were provided that indicate the high unemployment, low income areas, those, in fact, whether or not they've officially been declared or labeled as food deserts would be eligible because they have, they're either in Jedi zones or opportunity zones or other qualifying criteria, correct?
Correct. So for the high income and unemployment zones, those would be eligible through the secondary
Low income,
criteria.
high unemployment, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yes,
okay.
they would be eligible through the secondary criteria of the Jedi zone.
And so when you talk about the 1 to 3 zones that could be declared, and what is the process of doing so? What is the methodology that EWDD is using to evaluate which areas would then be adopted as a zone?
I'm sorry, for the good food zones?
Correct.
So essentially, the good food zones the boundaries would be determined by the council offices in consultation with EWDD. And those would be initiated by motion.
Okay.
Essentially, the only limitation on them being that they meet that Jedi zone eligibility standard.
And so I'm trying to kind of get a better understanding of the support and scope of work that the current business resource unit is providing, and that why they couldn't add this to their kind of suite of services, if you will, given the scope of work would seem to me to be in line with the kind of support that you would provide to these types of businesses as augmenting for a business opportunity for them. So why, not that I'm never in support of trying to get more resources to project manage, but I'm just trying to understand among the services that they're currently required to provide, why wouldn't this just be part of their arsenal, if you will, to support local businesses in areas like these? Because, for example, we've been doing a substantial amount of outreach, and this would be a better question suited for EWDD.
Maybe we can get EWD to the table?
Is someone here?
I think someone may be here.
Perfect.
Good afternoon. Sam Hughes, Assistant General Manager with the Economic and Workforce Development Department. With respect to capacity and bandwidth with our existing BRU, a Business Response Unit, we currently handle 50 to 60 inquiries and case management files per month. And to commit to handle anything in great excess of that would certainly compromise our efforts to be effective. To the extent the policy is being considered, we definitely are willing and capable of addressing the issue before us in the guise of a pilot program. But certainly anything beyond that would stretch our resources, and as a result, we'll ultimately need to hire more people to be effective in addressing the needs of food zone businesses, more specifically markets, food markets that are located within the zone.
So, but just for, again, for clarity's sake, in terms of the type of case management this individual would provide, what does that look like? What does that entail?
So essentially, that would entail, it would be very kind of tailored to food businesses. So if they need help getting certain health permits from the county, if they need help
For introduction of produce or whatever,
Correct.
because they don't currently
Correct.
offer that.
and any incentives that would be appropriate to specifically for a food business, they would help them in accessing those incentives.
But now the BRU does provide that, though, with respect to restaurateurs and other like businesses?
Currently, BRU provides assistance to any business that reaches out to EWD that needs assistance in sort of navigating the city process, permitting process, planning process, any process, and any business that can call. With respect to those businesses that are specific to the proposed policy before us, it's a bit more hands-on. There's a full dedication of services that are going to be necessary to assist any business as they presumably try to achieve and meet the goals that's outlined within the policy. And that type of triage, if you will, we just don't have the resources currently to assist those specific businesses in the food arena as we would like to. But again, in the spirit of cooperation and the spirit of certainly moving the policy forward, the department is willing and capable of assisting with the number of proposed businesses, I think not to exceed 10 right now with current staff, and that's hands-on with those proposed businesses as the various council offices makes recommendations.
And so, for example, the business source centers, in terms of the services that they provide, is this an opportunity for them as well to be well-versed in some of these types of opportunities to both, because they, in fact, support the opening or, right, and incubating a number of these similar type of businesses, correct?
Yeah, the business source centers definitely provide technical assistance, access to capital, and a host of services to businesses at large. Certainly, this particular unique carve-out for businesses associated with food matters is just a bit more tailored and very specific to certain needs. And our the bandwidth or the capacity of our existing business source centers just isn't set up to meet that need. And so there needs to be some training and some capacity building in order for them to be effective when they deal with the various businesses that are subject to this policy.
Councilwoman John Wickham with CLA. To access the incentives, a business does need to meet certain criteria and requirements. Right, because as was outlined and discussed, they need to provide certain percentages of certain types of fresh food, et cetera, et cetera. So the department will probably need to do an additional amount of work to verify that the business meets those qualifications before they receive the incentives. Whereas generally, there may not be that type of follow-up and work being in the general work that the BRU is doing, where they're helping the business get engaged with the resources that they need. So there's an extra bit of work associated with this to make sure that the criteria of the program are being met.
Well, I'm looking at it from the context of how do we expand our bandwidth to get South LA, Pacoima, Watts. Joe and I worked on, with Roy Choi because we saw the need. I mean, these are critical. This is prevalent throughout the city. And so I'm looking at it from the extent of how do we expand our bandwidth to actually support more of this work going forward, because I think there's clearly a need. And while I recognize that, for a load of case management for one geographic area or 1 to 3 geographic areas, we're still talking about a very small number. Whereas if we could, train others in kind of understand the verification process. I mean, I'm just trying to kind of better understand the level of case management that is being provided, say, at the Business Source Center, and could this be added to their suite of services so that we can, in fact, have a broader impact across this city. So I'm looking at it from that context. I understand the idea of, as a pilot, you want to test it first before you mandate it. I'm okay. Trust me, you had me at hello. But I just want to make sure that when we talk about how we scale this up and how we do so rapidly because of the need, the tremendous need for this, I'm currently working, because with respect to the fact that I think I appreciate the effort to shift people's hearts and minds for existing businesses. I see a critical opportunity both for the economic opportunities for low-income areas to become entrepreneurs if we incubate them in this kind of business. And so looking ahead, and that's what I'm trying to do with, say, a street vending incubator in my district, so that I could create both, address a food desert concern that I have in my district, is also creating that economic opportunity for these entrepreneurs. And so marrying those things, I think we need to broaden the scope of support that we're providing for many of these folks, not just for the existing businesses, but how we look to doing it for entrepreneurs that might otherwise not have the support or resources. We're talking about businesses and business enterprises that run on very thin margins. And so with that, there's a great deal of technical expertise that is required to support them for success. And so I'm just trying to ascertain how we could better fold in some of these things to some of our other support mechanisms, whether it's the business source centers, but how we mainstream it so that it just not, what's our process going forward so that we can actually broaden our reach with this type of effort.
No, I can so appreciate your comments. And just shortly, I like to think of, on occasion, what EWD provides is a retail approach to technical assistance. And our partners, our community partners, namely our business source centers, youth source centers, work source centers as well, provide a wholesale approach to assisting those individuals in the case of work source and youth source, and certainly businesses in the case of business source centers. And so the capacity, the learning curve, et cetera, needs to happen in-house within EWDD, as well as within our business source centers. So as the need is clearly acute and apparent, it's necessary for the trainers to be trained and to be equipped so that they can be effective in sort of assisting those businesses that need help. So as the department ramps up, it will be incumbent upon us, as the contracts allow, for us to encourage our business source center partners to also ramp up so they can provide that wholesale delivery of services on behalf of the city as our community partner, in addition to what we're doing sort of on the retail side. So I think that's sort of what you're speaking to, and I can so appreciate it, and that's something that we're looking to do now.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your leadership on this. This is terrific.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your support. And I just agree with the councilwoman. We want to ramp this up as soon as possible. That was my question, really, about the pilot and making sure that we could also roll it out in other parts, other necessary parts of the city, because there is a great need in those areas of need.
My motion will be in by the end of the week.
Mr. Busquiano.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your commitment to this program, and to all the advocates who are here who spoke. Appreciate your presence. A question on the number of 10. Why are we focusing on 10 businesses over the next 3 years? I think we'd have enough data to work with. How do we come up with that figure?
Well, and
Just think it's very low.
So that number is based on both the recommendation of the LA Food Policy Council as well as the amount or the caseload that EWD indicated that they could handle with existing resources.
And then as far as the type of businesses who already have an opportunity such as this one may also be the type of businesses who already knows about some of the existing incentives for food businesses. So what is the goal of this program, and how are we really going to help, in particular, our disadvantaged communities who may not have, who may not be aware that this exists? That, as far as the marketing, can you just talk about how we're marketing this?
Yeah. So for the first part of your question, the objective of the policy is twofold. It has economic development objectives as well as food access objectives. So the program is really designed to encourage the increasing of healthy food provision. And as far as the marketing goes, so as part of the policy, there's included a recognition program which would recognize businesses participating in the Good Food Zones as Good Food Zone businesses, and this would be accompanied with some kind of marketing program, and this would obviously help both increase the visibility of the program as well as help in applications for grant funding. So yeah, that's essentially it. The marketing is somewhat flexible in the sense that it can be done solely through recognition of existing through the Good Food Zone businesses, or it can be done through EWDD, and that can be added to the duties of the food business liaison.
And I appreciate that response. And do we foresee this pilot being a part of our sidewalk vending ordinance? This is the chairman and others in the city council led to legalize sidewalk vending. Is there a way that this program can apply to sidewalk vendors in these specific zones?
As proposed, the policy does include sidewalk vendors, so they would be able to participate in the program, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen, for the report and responses. And members, unless there's an objection, we will move to accept the CLA's report recommendations as presented. No objections? That will be the order. All right, thank you. Thank you, Claire. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Next item is item number 6, which is a motion from council members Blumenfield and Bonin relative to options for the city to enforce Assembly Bill 5 and related legal and pragmatic factors.
Okay, we have city attorney with us today. Someone from the city attorney's office.
Good afternoon. I'm Michael Bostrom, Assistant City Attorney with the Affirmative Litigation Division. The AB5, basically what it does is, as I'm sure you already know, is it codifies a new test for determining whether a worker is a an employee or an independent contractor. So I'm happy to, we're happy to report back in response to the motion, but today if there are any specific questions you have or information that you would like us to include in our report, happy to consider that as well.
Good. Well, AB 5 went into effect January 1,
That's right.
as you know, of this year. Is the city attorney's office aware of any lawsuits that have been filed by the city regarding misclassification of workers as independent contractors?
We're actively involved in, we filed 3 separate lawsuits against actually 6 companies that have engaged in trucking services at the ports, and we have alleged that they have misclassified their workers both before and after AB 5 as independent contractors when we contend that they are employees. So yes, we are enforcing all
And do you anticipate that more will be filed in the future?
I'm sorry?
Do you anticipate that more are going to be filed in the near future?
We're currently
Now that-
looking into future enforcement actions, et cetera. We're looking at that. That's right.
Actively, okay, good. Members?
Okay.
Members?
Good.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will accept the recommendation by the city attorney. And no objection, that will be the order. Pardon? I'm sorry. Okay, we'll approve the motion.
Approve it.
Approve the motion.
Come on, Marissa, she's on it.
That's right. We're not taking nothing from the city attorney. We're approving the motion. Is there anything else before us, Mr. Clerk?
No, Mr. Chair.
This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.